Myself and Eoin, that is, we're joined in studio this week by John Meyler. He's teamed up with Fáilte Ireland and Ride Wild to launch the September Wild Atlantic Way Cycle Sportif. The cycle taking place from the 8th to the 26th of September. The Sportif passes through some of the most spectacular coastline in Europe from Cork to Donegal. And here's our chat. All right, John Meyler, welcome to OTB HQ.
Thank you.
Delighted to have you in.
Thank you very much.
You're into, we'll get on to the serious business in a minute, but you're into talk a little bit about the Wild Atlantic Way Cycle Sportif that's taking place in September. But looking at some of the footage that we might show a little bit of it on screen here that you've been out and about doing over the last few months as well, it looks like an incredible track, an incredible part of the world, obviously.
Yeah, well, look, it's a cycle of the whole west of Ireland, the Wild Atlantic Way, over 2,000 but I don't expect anybody to do that all in one go. And I took part in it in April this year, where I cycled Block 1 from Kinsale to Dingle. There's 4 stages in that, and it was a tremendous experience, tremendous value, scenery, food, experience, you know, meeting people, and it's a social event as well, and it's very good for the, I suppose, for the health. It's very good for fitness, and it's good to try and get away from the hurling for a while up on the bike up on the top of a mountain, and there's no escape up there. 2,000
kilometres, 16 stages. Like, you want to be, and you're as fit as a butcher's dog by all accounts, but you want to be pretty fit to be taking that on.
Yeah, but it's not for everybody, the full 16 stages. And what I would say to people is, you know, look at one stage in your own locality. So we'll say from Skibbereen to, or from Kinsale to Skibbereen, it's about 100k, and everything is catered for in that. And you have great support. Keith Mongan and Mick O'Boyle really look after you. They have mechanics, marshals, and all of that. So everything that you require, everything that you need is looked after, and it's a tremendous experience. It's a tremendous experience, you know, to look at the scenery, you know, proper food, social event, really good for your health as well.
Good stuff. Well, look at Wild Atlantic Way, cyclesportif.ie if you want to get involved in the action. It's 8th to the 26th of September, and as I said, some people have been looking at some of the shots on screen there. It's absolutely incredible. We did set up the studio specifically with you in mind today, John. I mean, I'm sure you're aware that we've got Roy's jersey. Obviously, we're calling this David's jersey here, and the Cork jersey behind you, and the Galway jersey, obviously, for the...
there's no Limerick jersey, yeah.
Well, there's no Limerick jersey or no Expert jersey. We had to make culls at a certain point. It may also be that we don't have either of them. But so look at, as I said, thanks, William, for coming in. You were on with us a few weeks ago, and you were sort of directly the aftermath of the game, obviously, and you'd mentioned that John Kiley has a focus now for the month, and I don't. Has it been tough?
It has been tough. It's over 2 weeks since the game, and you know, there's been a lot of soul searching, a lot of post-match analysis, all of that, and it doesn't get any easier. You know, that a lot of people were asking the questions, why this, why that, why the other thing, but you know, it's hard to take at times, and it has been 2 hard, tough weeks. And you know, for Limerick and Galway then to be playing next Sunday, and the fact that we're not there, you know, it's hard, but we have to move on with that, and you know, get the learnings from this year and transfer that learning into 2019, and I think that's critical. And you know, we've looked at that as a management team and recently, so you know, we have got to look forward now to 2019.
How much of that then is that even the last couple of weeks when you talk about soul searching, how much of that is just that cathartic process of sort of revisiting it and getting frustrated by it and being annoyed by it and being angry by it? So how much of it is that, and how much of it is actually the critical analysis of straight away getting your head around what to do next year?
I think it's taking the whole year into account and really taking the learnings from the whole year and the transfer of what we've learned from 2018 into 2019, and to become stronger as a result of that. Of course you are going to, you know, be critical of yourself, and we all are critical of ourselves, but you know, we've got to move on from that, and I think that we have young talent coming on in Cork, and a few more blooded again this year, and hopefully, please God, that we can move that on to a higher level in 2019. But you know, looking at the Munster Championship for 2019, it's going to be more competitive than this year.
Can it become a problem where you have kind of a very famous defeat like that, because it was one of the games of the summer, one of the games you've seen over the last couple of years, where that becomes too much of a focus almost for the next year, especially when you look at this year? This was only one game in 7 championship games he played?
Yeah. Well, and it's difficult to look at it, and but we've got to look at it and learn from it. I think that's the key thing. Learn from it from the point of view of the older players, the younger players, and take out the really, really good bits of the 6 championship matches which we've played this year. Take that into next year, strengthen up in certain areas, and we've started the process of doing that. So it's always disappointing to lose a semi-final, and you look on in jealousy then next Sunday really at the All-Ireland final, Limerick and Galway, and you said yourself, we should have been there, we could have been there, but you have to move on as well, and that's it.
When you got the gig initially earlier in the year, you were on with Nathan and you were talking about the aftermath at Kingston, and sort of talking about, if you don't achieve success, you're useless, I think was the expression you used at the time. Do you consider 2018 to have been a success for Cork hurling?
Certainly, I think to come through Munster unbeaten, to win the Munster championship, and to come that close in the All-Ireland semi-final, albeit a draw after 70 minutes. And I suppose if normal circumstances were there, we would have had a replay. And I'd like to have had another go off Limerick again. But look, I certainly we've moved on from 2017. There's no doubt about that. I think we're stronger. We're better organised. We're better balanced. I think we just need to find a few more players, and that's it. And that process is already in train for next year, and to play the whole year without Alan Cadigan, to play without Stephen MacDonald, 2 key players in 2017, shows that we have strengthened that, and that Alan was a massive loss to us in that campaign.
When you're around about Cork, how are people? Are they generally pretty sympathetic?
I think people are very supportive. They're very supportive of the type of hurling that we've played. I've had very little negative reaction from people, and but I'm a positive person, and I'm not going to be going across the street looking for negative responses from people. I certainly don't do that.
Obviously, the Emma Fitzmaurice comments, obviously over the last couple of weeks, have sort of kicked things on about that abuse. Well, there was one specific abusive letter that he would get, but the more you hear people involved, and it's a thing that happens in all sports, the more you hear GAA people talk over the last couple of weeks, the more you see how prevalent that level of crazy abuse almost to some degree tends to exist.
But you take on these jobs. You're Kerry football manager, Dublin football manager, Kilkenny hurling manager, Cork hurling manager. There's no difference between any of these jobs. You're going to take criticism. If you win, you're right. If you don't, you're wrong. You are in this job. You are going to take criticism. You know that. You expect that. You know it's coming. If we don't get another step further in 2019, I will be criticised. I know that. I'm aware of that, and that's the truth. So there's no point. But don't be waiting for letters in the post. I'm certainly not waiting for letters in the post box, because I don't look at them, and I don't look at negative comments.
Do they arrive? Do they? Do you get?
You know the letter that comes. It's not printed,
right.
So it's John Meyler, Cork hurling manager, Cork. It's hardly.
It's not a bill.
It's not a bill. It's not an invite to the next All Stars dinner. So I know what's coming, and you say, well, do I open it or do I not open it? And.
Well, there was the effing bollocks. Kerry was the. You haven't got any of those Pat Spillane style letters.
No. I look. You're in this job, and all jobs that we're in, you will take criticism, you will take abuse, you will get it from the crowd behind your back in the stand. I know that, but I've a hard back. I've been involved in coaching for the best part of 30 years. I've been abused all over the place, but that I put my best foot forward, and if it's good enough, it's good enough. If it's not, then it's not. And you have to accept that if you lose in the current environment, you are going to get criticised.
Have you noticed a shift in how the Cork public expects, given over the last 2 years you kind of established yourselves as Munster champions and defending your crown, where last year in particular it felt like this explosion of emotion that you got back to the top level, and then your side obviously backed it up this year. At what point does that become All Ireland or bad year sort of expectation?
Well, if you look back over the last 3 years, that in 2016 Cork lost to Wexford in Thurles, and then there was an explosion last year because Cork had found this newness, this freshness, this speed of hurling from Sheahan Kingston, from Luke Meade. Dara Fitzgibbon, Coleman really burst onto the scene. I think we've strengthened that this year. We've moved on to another level. We've moved on to an All-Ireland semi-final. Now Cork people in 2019 will be expecting. They will want more success. They will want, to see something on the table. So the minimum at least is to get to Croke Park again next year, and people will expect more. So we have to deliver more, and we understand that as a management team. We realise that, the players understand that. So that's the bottom line.
And some of that process might be quickened up, obviously, given the increasing volume of games that is there. So a lot of those games over the last couple of years have been against Limerick, obviously. I think you might have played them 3 times over the last couple of years and ran them like a cigarette paper between yourselves and themselves in the end, obviously, this year.
But all of the matches this year have proven that there's really not a puck of the ball between all of the top teams. If you look at the matches that, teams that go 6-8 points up, that lead is whittled back. The Munster Championship has become really, really competitive. And, Tipperary and Waterford are going in next year with 2 new managers who will want to put their best foot forward. So if you thought 2018 was competitive, next year it will be ultra competitive.
What do you make of this Limerick group, having seen them up close and prepared for them? There's a lot of excitement around the country from a neutral point of view about, the Gallans and the Lynches and that team, about what they might achieve. I think
they've shown a maturity this year. But I think Limerick, they've built on that over the last few years. So you've had the minor success, you've had under-21 success, you've had club success. You've had Fitzgibbon with Mary I and with UL and with LIT. So all of that has helped to develop Limerick, to develop a winning culture with Kyle Hayes, Gallan, Tom Morrissey, all of these players. And it has kind of solidified them and given them a maturity, a composure and a strong character. And they've really been involved in 3 games this year where I think they've been tested in Galway in the league match where they come out on top, then against Kilkenny and Thurles when Kilkenny got that goal, and with ourselves then in Croke Park. So they've built on that through, I would imagine, the success that they've had at different levels. So it's that culture and of winning that has helped them over that, and
It strikes you looking at the matchup for the weekend that they may need to, even though it's a young group, and particularly at this level, they may need to lean on a lot of that experience. Like we've seen Galway's quick starts against Clare a couple of times and against Kilkenny. How does John Kiley set up to try and nullify some of that early on? No,
I think I think Limerick will come out of the blocks. I think over the last 2 games with Clare, certainly Galway have come out of the blocks and gone in 6, 8, 10 points up. But that lead has been whittled back by Clare over the last 2 games. And, Clare didn't drive it on really. Gallan, Sheahan had a great opportunity and he was desperately unlucky to hit the post, and the last ball Tony Kelly was coming out with to try and get a point at the end. Galway haven't really played for 70 minutes. They've played early on and then they're kind of hanging on in the second half. And I think if Limerick can can stay with them for the first half, and then, they've shown a composure and a character this year, Limerick, that hasn't been there before, where they probably would have self-imploded. I think this year they're showing that maturity, so it's extremely tight. On Sunday it's extremely difficult to call, but, I think Limerick just have that little bit of composure at the end, I think.
What's the main reason for the Galway building up these 3 huge leads? Obviously Kilkenny once and then Clare twice, and then letting them slip to a point of parity on all 3 occasions. Now granted, they won all the 3 matches, so it's not a criticism really.
No, it's not a criticism, but they're allowing, if you look at all of the matches this year, teams that have gone in 6, 8, 10 points up at different stages, the opposition has whittled them back. But that Galway really haven't put together their A game. Over the Leinster campaign and the 2 matches against Clare. They'll be hoping for that on Sunday, that everything comes together. McInerney was a loss on Sunday 2 weeks ago, and and that was a distraction as well. Joe Canning's injury in as well. So the fact that they might have McInerney back on Sunday really gives them a platform at centre-back. So I would expect them to be stronger on Sunday, but I think Limerick will possibly shade it just based on that character of composure and resilience which they've shown.
Given that early start, it isn't a given from Galway this weekend because it depends on the opposition, what would you do if you were managing Cork against them on Sunday to try and...
against Galway?
Yeah.
I'd run around them.
What would you do? Because it's, you're expecting a bit of a wave, I suppose.
You play to your own strengths. You play to your own strengths, and the strength we saw of the Cork team this year was one of speed, moving the ball. That speed, that accuracy, and that that Galway are going to go the aerial route, and they have Johnny Glynn on the edge of the square, so the aerial ball in there will work. And it's just you got to negative when they deliver the ball from their half back line.
That's Clare's game though, almost, isn't it? That sort of possession game, sort of trying to move it quick, and it didn't initially anyway really work out that well for them.
Yeah, but they weren't sure from the last day. The first day against Galway, Clare put after 15 minutes, Galvin went back as sweeper. Then they started with Galvin the sweeper the second day, and it didn't really work out. So that they were kind of reacting on the hoof then to things. So I think you have to have your game plan and just stick with your own process.
Was it the 2016 relegation playoff the last time Cork played Galway, if I'm right? Was that a couple of years?
Yeah.
What sort of you wouldn't mind having a crack off them, obviously, this Sunday if it's involved in Ireland? What do you think of the clash of the two styles almost?
I would love to have played Galway, but I take my hat off to Limerick. They're there on merit, but please God, we get a chance against Galway next year, and we just need to work on that and get back there again, and that's the hard work starts again.
Yeah. It sounds like it's already started by the sounds of things from what you're saying. It's
but
an element of that.
I suppose the Munster Championship this year has been incredible. Everybody would agree. 250,000 people went to the matches. To be part of that and to be part of that action over 5 Sundays has been, satisfying for everybody. And to get back there next year, it's going to be absolutely incredible Munster Championship next year. And you consider Tipperary and Waterford with new managers, Cork, Limerick and Clare getting into All-Ireland semi-finals this year. So can you pick 3 out next year?
That's unbelievable, yeah. Your enthusiasm for it is unwavering, very clearly.
That's right. What else am I doing, during the summer? And it's really enjoyable when you're there and winning. And
is there a bit of a downer almost afterwards on that basis that you're trying to pick yourself up by the bootstraps a bit?
Yeah, look, society today is about winners. Society today is about winning. It's hard. You need to go away and when you lose a match like that, and you're your own worst enemy, you're your own worst critic, and you have to look at it harshly and in the cold light of day and all of that, and try and resurrect yourself, resurrect the team to get back again, and certainly we'll be back. It's
not right that it's only about winners, though, is it? It's the effort or the level of success that we spoke about at the very start of the piece about what anybody's level of success can be doesn't always have to result in landing the trophy, of course.
But that's the only thing that matters is winning the Liam McCarthy, going up the steps to the Hogan stand. That's really what matters as a Cork man, Kilkenny man, Wexford man, Tipperary man. That's what you're brought up for since you're a child, since you took the first litter. It's getting to Croke Park. I was brought up on the Wexford team of 56 and the Rackards and Ned Wheeler and beating Cork in the 56 All-Ireland ring and Mackie or ring and Mick Cashman, Jack Lynch, all of those great Cork players. And I was brought up on the Rackards and Wheeler and Jim English and those, and that's the only thing I remember since I was a child. A massive big photograph at home in the bar at home in Wexford, and that's bred into you, and that's bred into you as a Cork child, a Tipperary child, a Kilkenny child. That's all you want, is to be there on the first Sunday in September to win. That's it.
Is that your earliest hurling memory out of interest, that Wexford double team?
We had a pub. My brother still runs the pub in Tecumseh in Wexford, and behind the bar there's a massive 2 big A4 sheets of photographs of the 55 and 56 All-Ireland, and I vividly remember, I can see all the pictures, Nicky Rackard being carried off by the Cork players, Christy Ringart, Foley and goal, Jim English, Mick Morrissey, the 3 Rackards, like legends. That's what I was brought up on. I remember all the Cork players, Jimmy Brown, Tony Shaughnessy, Christy Ring, Mick Cashman in goal. All of those great players ring, that's what I was brought up on. So I knew nothing else, only that trophy, and I can see that picture every day, and it's no different than a Kilkenny child or a Dublin child at the moment looking at Jim Gavin winning All Ireland.
You must have thought it was always going to be like that.
And I did, and I remember Ned Wheeler used to drive an oil lorry. He used to deliver oil and out to the garden when I was a child and play hurling with Wheeler, like your heroes, so
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. And Wheeler, and I remember Phil Wilson as well, who played hurling at Wexford. He used to drive an oil lorry, and you end up outside playing in the garden with them, and my mother used to give him a cup of tea and a sandwich. So wow. It's and then you go 50, 60 years later, that you're trying to get to Croke Park to where they were, where Wheeler was, with the records and that in 56. So
it does seem that kind of is still in existence in the GAA. It's gone so elite, but at the same time there is still an appreciation from people and their community. It may not be as direct as hopping out of the oil lorry and actually having a puck around with a kid in their garden, but like with the cool camps, with different things like that, it does seem that the appreciation's there.
You have the Kellogg's cool camps all over the summer, so you have the likes in Cork, we'll say, of Mark Coleman, Darrell Fitzgibbon, Shane Kingston visiting those. And those kids that are 5, 6 and 7 and they're pucking around with Coleman or Kingston or Fitzgibbon and they see them as their heroes. Like, even I have a neighbour who is a young fella, 6 or 7, and he comes up when I'm in the car and he said, I saw you on the television. or so maybe he could be here in 50 years' time saying that. So, out of Coleman, Fitzgibbon, they're heroes, children in cool camps at 5, 6 and 7 see Coleman as a hero, or see Shane Kingston, Darrell Fitzgibbon, because they're now seeing them on the television, and there's so much access to people now on TV and that. So it's incredible, and I never forget Wheeler and Phil Wilson and those, and in the garden at home, and you just playing. God, that's a long time ago.
Yeah,
they were incredible men. Like.
Absolute legend. Like, it's funny you mentioned that, because those pictures were actually up on telly, of course, last Monday when they were showing the pictures of that final, and they just about managed to illuminate the section when Ring is getting carried off by the Wexford players as well. So didn't actually realise Rackford was carried off by the Cork players, or was it probably his own players?
I remember was it Nicky Rackford was going off with blood streaming down the side of his face, and and Art Foley made a great save from Christy Ring, and like they're all encapsulated in those pictures up on the wall at home, and that's all I ever looked at. And you got inspiration from that. You got motivation. As much as the kids now looking at, the Dublin footballers and Cormac Costello, all of those, McCaffrey, John McCarthy, those, they're seeing those on television now, and they want to be, like them. They're their heroes now. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm sure you'll be back at Croke Park, John. I'm absolutely no doubt about that over the next few years. Well, Sunday anyway. Yeah. Will you go?
Oh yeah.
You
couldn't miss
that.
Be kept away.
I'll
be there next Sunday. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. And you're calling for who do you think?
I think Limerick just by, I'd say, a point, possibly a replay, but it's I think it's an incredible game on Sunday coming, and it has been an incredible summer of hurling, and and take my hand off to Limerick and Galway for what they've achieved, and for Michael to get back in again, going for 2 in a row, and so. Great day on Sunday.
Yeah, we'd all take a replay as long as keep this summer going. That's
you wouldn't give us a replay against him.
John, thanks a million for coming into us.
Okay.
It's all to do with the Wild Atlantic Way, cyclesportif.ie. You can check out all the details there. It's the 8th to the 26th of September.